Oh, what a hit on Dunham by Switowski.
I think I made him shit himself.
I think he just shit himself.
What up, everyone? DJ Nubis with my co-host Edgar Allan Poet here on a Poetic Carnage episode 20. Already 20 episodes.
I know.
And this is where we all talk. What's that?
I was going to say, we've had some gaps in episodes, too, because of different things.
So, yeah, and that's fine. Because, I mean, we're not professional by any means. We're not getting paid for this. So it's like we work at our own pace here.
That's
at,
right. I'm still waiting
Tavern,
on that Diet Coke. Still waiting on that Diet Coke endorsement.
Yeah.
Red Bull endorsement.
Any sponsors out there? Sure, you can come. We'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
So today we'll, as we do on this show, we talk about all things sports. We'll be talking a little bit about the Michigan-Washington national championship game for the NCAA college championship, some NFL playoffs, but we're going to get into a couple other little stories here recently within the last day and a half. First one being, like, I was kind of shocked at this. There's a lot of coaching changes going on. One of them being Saban retired. And, like, I know you're a big Saban fan.
I am.
I appreciate Saban and his legacy and everything at Bama. The dude knocked it out of the park once he got there. How many championships did he end up with in Bama? I don't even know.
I think he has 6 total. One of those was at LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, he just, look, he's an easy guy to dislike. And he was a man who knew how to exploit advantages. He was the king of denying people transfers on the waiver, transfers before the transfer portal, as we know, it opened up, or only letting them go to crappy schools. He was the king of stashing 4- and 5-star talents. And it's like, well, why is it that their offensive line, defensive line is so good? It's like, well, because their offensive line on the bench is as good as your starters, right? Like, he exploited a lot of things. It doesn't change the fact that those are the rules. It doesn't change the fact that Alabama was horrible when he got there, that he built it back up. He was a brilliant X's and O's coach. I will tell you this. Nick Saban, I'm not going to sit there and try to act like I know him as a person, because I don't. But there's a really good interview. I think it was pretty early on when the man was at Alabama. He's talking about when he coached at Michigan or Michigan State, Muhsin Muhammad, who was a star wide receiver in the NFL. I know you remember him. He was really good for the Panthers, had a monster year for the Bears. And it's hard for a wide receiver to have a good year in Chicago because they don't throw the ball so good historically. And he had this clip is of him defending the notion of not kicking guy off the team. He's talking about like, well, where do you want this kid? This kid just screwed up. Do you want him in college? Do you want him under my thumb? Or do you want him out there doing God knows what? And he talked about Muhsin Muhammad, how everybody wanted to read them the riot act for not kicking him off the team. And now Muhsin Muhammad was a star player for 15 years in the NFL, small business, or had, I think, owned a couple businesses, big family, daughter going to Princeton, and so now I'm not going to sit there and lie to you and be like, I'm pretty sure Musa Muhammad was really good at football, even in college. And I'm sure that having him on the team was pretty good, but there is some depth to the man. And there's some things about him that I didn't like. I didn't like when one of his players had a seizure and he reportedly stepped over him. Like he's had some bad moments and stuff like that. Like, so I'm not going to, just look at it with rose tinted glasses, but college football won't be the same without that grumpy old bastard.
And I have to, if I'm going to come to his defense a little bit, it's like almost every successful head coach, whether it's college or pro, has some sort of ego. A lot of them do.
Yeah. Got to be confident.
I mean, let's look at Bill Belichick. He also, I think, retires, at least stepped away from the Patriots. And do you think he was forced out, or you think he just kind of decided he was done with the Patriots at this point?
I think he was forced out because he had that initial press conference saying that he wanted to stay and he was still under contract. Look, his problem isn't a coaching problem. His problem is he's a horrible general manager. And I mean this, like, I am prone to hyperbole to have fun and make a point. But I mean, I mean this truly. I could not do a worse job than Bill Belichick as a drafter. Like, there's no way.
Right.
As a matter of fact,
he's notorious for
bad.
Well, he's notorious for thinking that he can get take blood from a stone. Like he just believes in that philosophy. So for a long time, when he had Tom Brady, he thought, well, I'm successful. I'm winning Super Bowls. I can give Tom these scrubby dudes at receiver, and we'll still get it done. And he kept trying to take that in once Tom was gone, and we saw what happened.
Yeah, and when his drafting got worse because there's a guy, I can't remember what show it was. It's a couple days ago. If I can think of it, I will go back and give the guy credit. But he was saying something that had been pretty well reported, that like he's not the de facto general manager, but he basically got what he wanted, and like he'd have scouts that would come to him, and the longer he had been there, the more he would just send them away. And so at least when he was giving Brady scrubs to throw the ball to, he was drafting a great defense, and then the front office was always good with trades and always good with letting guys go at the right time and whatnot. And that deteriorated. And it got to the point where, like, I'm not a Tom Brady guy. I think Tom Brady is an asshole, and I think he's an overrated quarterback. But I came to his defense when one of the reasons he left New England was he was just throwing the no ones. And it's like, okay, I'm up here in the cold, and down in Tampa, I can get Gronk to come with me, and they have Godwin or Chris Goodwin. I always screw up that guy's name. He's a
Godwin,
really
and then
Godwin and Mike Evans, who's a Hall of Famer. We're going to start putting respect on that man's name, and nice couple running backs and a good offensive line, and I can get Antonio Brown. I can basically have everything that I haven't had here forever and a day, and I don't have to get berated by a coach who secretly knows how good I am and all that stuff. Gee, I think I might go down. Oh, and there's no state income tax in Florida. It's probably like a nice little cherry on top. So, Belichick, a lot of these coaches have these flaws. Mike Shanahan didn't forget how to coach, but he was too loyal to Slowick. A lot of people, there's this misconception outside of the Denver Broncos sphere that Shanahan got fired for performance. It's like, no, they wanted him to stop like throwing away playoff berths and losing streaks at the end. But they knew he could coach, and they wanted him to develop Cutler and whatnot. And then they got a guy who traded Cutler. We're awful, but it was Slowick. That was the final, and that was so well reported for so long. It is what it is, and I can understand Shanahan sticking to his guns. I could also understand Bill Belichick being like, guys, the first 3 or 4 Super Bowls were defensive Super Bowls. So I can understand it, but I can also understand that the Patriots have been awful. They're getting worse. He should go coach in San Diego. Go coach in San Diego.
Right. The other one that really kind of surprised me besides Nick Saban in college was Pete Carroll in Seattle. Like, I'm really kind of surprised at that. And even though I haven't seen it in writing, it does look like he was fired.
Mm-hmm. And when it was first reported, it said that he was stepping down or whatnot. I think I don't like Carroll either, to be honest. I have a lot of respect for Saban, and I have a lot of respect for Belichick, although I don't like Belichick because he's a cheater. The only reason I dislike Pete Carroll is I thought it was really classless to leave USC the way that he did.
I remember that. But here's a quick question though. Do you think it was classless the way that Saban left Miami?
Yeah, 100%.
Because that always rubbed me the wrong way.
Bullshit. The only thing that saved him from that is, one, it took him only 2 years to get Alabama back on top, and then that asshole quit on the Falcons like halfway through a season, and I can't remember that guy's name. It was super classless. It was super classless because Saban always wanted to be a college coach. He wanted to coach.
Wasn't it
at Bama? Who did that?
Fuck? It was the son of somebody else, right?
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, it used to be I think it was the son of another head coach in the NFL. And he did all right in college, but when he was doing the Falcons, he like bombed.
Yeah.
If I have the right guy in mind, I'm not sure if I do.
I'm searching it. You might be thinking of Shula's kid or Walsh's kid that coached.
Yeah, I think it's Shula. Thinking of
I can't. I did a quick lazy Google search. Everything's coming up for Arthur Smith, the guy that they just fired in Atlanta.
Right.
But it's completely classless on Nick Saban, and he coached in Miami. He was probably going to do a pretty good job. It looked like he was doing a solid job. Alabama was going to throw a ton of money at him. He wanted to coach college, and he left, and it was shitty. It was super shitty. That's a fair point.
He's always had it. Like I said, he's always had an ego, Pete Carroll, and
Pete, and the USC one bothers me the most though, because he knew.
But here's the funny thing: when I make a defense for Pete, is that I remember when he was at the Jets.
Yeah.
And he didn't win anything, and he didn't like really blow the doors, but he did improve them.
Yeah.
Before he left to go to USC, and so I'm like, I sat there and I said at the time, like, well, that's kind of dumb with the Jets because this guy actually showed improvement with the team, and then they just didn't keep him. So like, when obviously he went to USC and had success there, and then came back to Seattle. So like, it didn't surprise me that he would succeed in the NFL.
No,
that was always something there.
Pete Carroll is a guy, I have to give him his credit. First off, he's a Hall of Fame head coach, and given how Russ has looked outside of the Pete Carroll system, we now might think that Pete's a little bit better than we did beforehand. That's not a dig at you. Or any,
of course it is. You always want to rub my nose.
No, I don't. I don't. With Pete Carroll, he is a guy who was a football coach. He was a true blue football coach. He did so many things that I liked. I like the concept of you compete and let the best guy win, regardless of draft, regardless of free agency signing and all of that stuff. What rubbed me the wrong way about the way he left USC was Reggie Bush got caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
Yep.
We know that it's dumb that those rules were the way that they were back then. It was stupid, but they were the rules. Pete Carroll obviously knew about it. He knew that a lot of guys were on the take, and then he saw that his team was going to be suspended It embarrassed
He
NCAA
bailed.
because it was the Heisman. He left before some of those sanctions came down to get out from underneath it. He knew he was going to be sanctioned, and so he dipped, and it was sad.
Yep.
That does not.
But I'll say this. I will say this. The one thing that gave me joy feelings during that season was, even though I knew Vince Young would be a bomb or a bust coming to the NFL, he did like single-handedly beat that USC team, which was beautiful.
You know what? It's an interesting thought experiment of what Vince Young looks like today in the NFL without Jeff Fisher as his head coach. He's probably a much better player.
I don't know. I mean, I suppose. I mean, it does suppose
the Jeff Fisher thing.
Which coach you were under? I always thought Jeff Fisher's a great coach. I always thought
he was a good defensive coach, but if you look at his track record of being one of his nicknames is a quarterback killer. It's terrible. Did he have
Steve McNair?
He did have Steve McNair, and that was the last quarterback that did well under him. It was part of.
He might have been just one of those guys where time just passed. I mean, we see it.
I
with
think
Joe
it
Gibbs
was
when he came back. Shanahan came back, and it all didn't do very
right.
well, so.
And I think the other thing is that Jeff Fisher was once a very good coach, but he didn't have that Tom Coughlin in him. Tom Coughlin looked himself in the mirror and said, "I'm a good coach, but I have to dial some of this back and let some of these guys do their thing. Otherwise, we're not going to win games. I'm not going to have a job." And Jeff Fisher coached for the Rams in St. Louis, where the Rams fans were like, "Oh, you took my team," but no one went to those games. So you didn't live up to your contract. Anyway, that's a personal rant aside. And there was no pressure. If you remember back, when he coached in the Rams, that's when the Niners were awful. That's when the Cardinals were sort of maybe good. It was a bad time. The NFC West was a joke. And he got a lot of pass, and then they always looked like they were like, next year's our year, and over and over and over again. And so it's just, it was unfortunate for Young to be drafted there because Fisher didn't want him. That was also on the record. Vince was also a little immature, but today in 2020, of
course, we saw that with the other quarterbacks. Cutler and then the USC quarterback.
Leinart was so immature.
Yeah.
Mr. Hot Tub.
Well, other news that we saw, I talked about with you off behind the scenes, ESPN in the last couple hours is a little hot water because apparently going back to 1987, they'd been faking names for the awards, and how much of a factor that played into what was decided, I don't know, but it forced him to come out with an apology. And I do have a little bit of a little,
can I read this real quick?
Here. Yep.
So this is from ABC News. The Emmy scam was first revealed by The Athletic, which reported that ESPN personalities like Kirk Herbstreit, Lee Corso, and Desmond Howard on College Game Day, Desmond Howard, one name, were given, what a throwback, were given awards they were not entitled to. There was no evidence. The report said that any on-air winners knew what happened. ESPN issued a statement in which they said this was a misguided attempt to recognize on-air individuals who were important members of our production team.
The Athletic report said on-air talent were not allowed to be included with those credited for the Emmy category for outstanding weekly show hosts. Hosts, analysts, and reporters on the show could win individual awards, but were prohibited from what the Academy calls double dipping. Let's see. Yeah, it's a really weird situation. I'm not really sure. Like, you and I were talking about how, like, at one time, like, look, I remember watching ESPN for the first time in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was such a big deal for sports fans because, we were getting to see more sports. We were getting great hosts, somebody of the class, Chris Berman and all them. Now it's like, it's almost like a joke of itself because they're more, again, it's either just a cross between, I don't know much about Pat McAfee, but he doesn't really look the part.
He's
almost like they took a redneck and just threw him up in there. Like, I mean, I give the guy credit.
Yeah,
but
he's a personality. He's fun. He has some good opinions, but he's more about the spectacle. It's like watching sports in your homeboy's garage, drinking beers. You just got done playing Ultimate Frisbee, talking about your impending divorce, right? Like that's the vibes of the Pat McAfee show, and I mean that in the best way possible. He's a hell of a punter, and he's also a part-time pro wrestler, and I love pro wrestling, so I have a lot of love for him. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be on air.
No, and like I said,
well,
it's great that he can get that gig, but it's like so funny to me when I just go back to who's the guy that does the Daily now or whatever it was, the old school dude.
Rich
He's more
Eisen.
like, well,
No,
Rich Eisen was
Eisen's
great.
Eisen's on the Roku channel now. Eisen was great.
It's the guy that went to politics, and he was really funny. But it's just he does.
Overman.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Oberman. Yeah, Oberman was really good at his job. They brought him back for a while. Politics aside,
Right.
he was a good on-air talent. They used to do like I would go home, I'd watch these shows, I'd watch Sports Center, and yeah, there's always memes about Sports Center. Like they were a little Michael Jordan centric, and then they were a little LeBron centric. Like they definitely pandered to the biggest star, right, that was available, but they also couldn't in an hour block cover all 32 teams in the NFL and be like, well, you know, the piddly ass New York. Well, they cover the Jets because they're a New York team, but like the piddly ass Jacksonville Jaguars lost by 28 points again. You know, it's like no one cares. Those are victims. Get that shit off the screen. But they were real. You go to their website. I remember the first time I went to their website because I was coming out of high school. And I wanted to do journalism. I wanted to do sports journalism. When I was coming out, I graduated in 2006. And that was kind of like the death of journalism had already been well started. But this was like when we kind of were first starting to see the the damage, I'll say. And I was reading their articles were so good. And they still have great writers and they still have good reporters. It's just that you have to dive through a mountain of muck. But it's like, but you can turn on the television and here's Kendrick Perkins, and his job is to be a bad opinion machine. His job is to sit there on television and give horrible opinions and be wrong, aggressively and loudly wrong. And then here's this person, and their job is to be a homer for this team, and this person's job is to be a homer for that team. And then here's their obviously crappy opinion that has, like, you hear it and you have 27 rebuttals that just instantly form because it's so poorly formed. It's so listless. It is satire. It's not satire, because if it was satire at some point it would stop. It's just the network is dead. It's still somehow profitable. I'm guessing it's because they have television deals
it's
or
almost
something.
went the MTV route. What started as mainly just sports, now it's about everything else.
That's a spot on. And it sucks because it used to be great and it didn't change. It didn't adapt with the times, and they let what Skip and Stephen A did in the morning warp everything. It's just so, and not everything has to be hard-hitting sports journalism. I'm not saying you can't have shows or segments that are fun. Sports are supposed to be fun. But I can't watch it anymore. RIP.
Yeah, it's even worse now because we have so many other options on streaming that you don't even have to worry about it anymore.
I'll go to YouTube and I will find some kid who's 23 or 4, and he is a part-time college at a division, part-time coach at a Division II school, and he will sit down and he'll be like, here's all the plays against the cover 2 shell with a blitzing inside linebacker that I collected this week. And this is what the league, and I'm just like, this is like the best coverage. And it's like coming from a YouTube channel with 1,000 followers and 25 videos. And it's like, it's just like a passion project. Or you can find, if you want, like come draft time, if I'm trying to break down like the wide receivers, I'm going to Steve Smith Sr. Right? I just have to find whatever show he's on or whatever. I'm going there because that motherfucker.
He's very underrated as a commentator.
He got laughed at. He said Cooper Kupp will be the best wide receiver from that class. He called all the flaws you see from Quentin Johnston, the TCU kid, the guy that the Chargers drafted, have manifested. Like, I'm not saying he's perfect, But that guy, when it comes to wide receivers, that dude doesn't miss. And you can find guys like that. You can watch on Roku, Rich Eisen, and he's not like he's giving opinions and takes, and he's looking at the big picture stuff. And he's not saying anything profound, but it's a real show. It's got a relaxed vibe to it. Dan Patrick's got a relaxed vibe
Patrick
to it.
was always great too.
Yeah, you talk about a guy. Dan Patrick was so smart and is so smart. But you remember, back in the day, you'd have like for baseball, there'd be Peter Gammons and then Clayton for the NFL, and just these luminaries of journalism. And now it's like you turn it on, and your hope is that you don't get dumber. Like you just don't get dumber like when it's on because you have nothing else to do. And I was a guy who wanted to really work for ESPN. I wanted to be a journalist. Like that was my passion for a long, long time. And holy shit, like journalism is dead kind of like across the board.
Dude, they would have looked at you on the sideline and said, "Yo, boy, you're big enough for our O-line. Put some pads on."
Yeah. Denver's shitty offensive line be like, you think you could play right guard? Like, no, but I will sign that contract. I will sign that.
Here's $500,000 just to sit our bench.
I'll be like, I'll blow out this right knee right now because I get healthcare through you. Let's go.
All right, let's talk about college football. This past Monday, Michigan and Washington played for the Grand Poobah of college sports and NFL college football, and I was kind of surprised Michigan got by Alabama. I thought for sure when I made my prediction initially that Bama would kind of go in there and like show what was up.
Yeah,
they still played a tough game.
They almost won. You could argue they should have won.
If that punt return would have failed, dude, they would have been screwed. But it is what it is. You got to make those plays. But Michigan impressed. Their defense was for real. McCarthy's a smart enough quarterback. I think. Somebody was saying somewhere, I don't remember if you were part of it or somebody else. I think it was on a different board that they were like, it was on Facebook actually. Some Bronco fans were like, "Hey, what do you think if we draft McCarthy?" And everyone's like, "No, dude, please just stop."
Some people have a first round grade on him. He's actually he's an interesting prospect for. I'll give you the case for him. The case for him is obviously he's got good tape. He does some good things on the field. But the argument for him is really more along the lines of what he is capable of doing physically is restrained by the system that he is in because Harbaugh wants to run the ball 50 times. I don't know if that's true. I want to see his combine. I want to see how big
I think he has a good passion for the game because I watched the game with Washington and he made some plays
alpha
where
waves and the brushing of the
he kind of took over and
shit.
started doing things but I think when I do look at him also, I think I see a Billy Zappi or Mac Jones kind of guy. Like as far as his ceiling, you know what I mean? His ceiling.
I think it's a little more than that because this is what I was. Okay, I'll defend him. I'll make the argument. His arm's a lot better. Like his arm is not comically bad like a Zappi or a Mac Jones or a Keesum or a Simeon or a Bridgewater post injury, etc., etc. He's got some more velocity. My issue with him is I don't know if that frame will hold up. I don't know if he's athletic because now almost everybody's athletic. Like if you look at Joe Burrow before the knee injury, right? If you go back and you watch the tape before the knee injury and him in college, he's actually a little bit more athletic and shifty than you thought. That's mostly kind of gone. But I use Burrow for the example of that Burrow post knee or pre knee injury is kind of like the floor for athleticism that you're looking for a quarterback now. Because one, the offensive lines are trash, so you have to be able to move a little bit. Two, you can't hit a quarterback hard. So if you just take a step or two back one way, you alter what the defender can do, and so on and so forth. I don't know if he's athletic enough, but I do think if he has a good combine, I do think that he can, or if he gets his measurables done wherever, because some people don't go to the combine. I get all that. Pro day or whatever. He might actually be a first-round pick. And I have way more faith in him as a prospect than I ever did with Mac Jones. Mac Jones, to me, was a fucking veggie burger, right? Like it from like 100
Well,
feet
Mac
away.
Mac was always a system guy. So
Yeah, he
like
was zero athleticism, horrible arm. Honestly, like the only argument for him was he was a winner and intangibles, and that shit doesn't matter if you can't fucking throw the ball properly.
but see,
Also,
I kind of worry about that with McCarthy because, like, you know, if Michigan hadn't got to the championship game or even got into the playoffs, like, would he still be a first round grade? I'm just not sure if that's the
I
case.
I I think maybe because I had heard his name cropping up throughout the entire year as well, but they're also winning. Like, look, I think honestly, man, I think he actually reminds me a lot of Kenny Pickett, maybe with a slightly better arm. So,
Uh,
um,
yeah, well, I mean, God, dude, like, see, now you're just fucking throwing shade at me
I'm
hard.
not throwing shade. I liked Kenny Pickett. I was on the record to draft Kenny Pickett. So
Yeah, but I'm
I
not.
gotta
I'm
give
feeling
you
so bad about it now because I can see Pickett just like his whole stock is just like plummeting. Um, but you know that's the thing about college is you when they're in college, it seems like they can just beat the world, and then
Yeah.
you get
Well,
on the pro level and it's a whole different game.
look
Everyone's
at
as
all those
fast as you.
guys. Look at who he was throwing to. The Alabama
But
wide receiver was the
on the
Pro
other
Bowl.
side of the ball, Penix, what do you think of him?
I still like him. I think we're overreacting to a rough bowl game. This is where he got in trouble, in my opinion. Now, full disclosure. When I watch college, I'm more relaxed. I'm not trying to break down schemes. I'm not trying to solve the game as it goes like I am in a pro game. See that didn't look good. You know that looked like a
Well,
guy FSU versus Michigan would have maybe it wouldn't have been 63-3. Maybe they just would have ran the ball and they weren't going to try to prove a point. Because let's be honest, Kirby Smart was making a point. Because what Kirby Smart was saying was we were the y'all got rid of us because it was convenient. We were the best team almost the entire year long. You were tired of seeing us beat that ass. Old Nick Saban got us up out of there, and you didn't want two SEC teams, even though the SEC is your daddy. So we
yeah.
were convenient to get rid of. And you know who got sacrificed. And they even had FSU ranked ahead of them, which was just them
That
trolling,
pissed him
by
off
the way.
more.
That was just them trolling.
Which is legitimate argument because I saw guys that were saying, yeah, FSU got screwed, but then like he's saying, but if you don't think they're good enough for the playoffs, why are they ranked ahead of Georgia?
Right. And that was the committee saying, okay, that was the committee trolling. They were like, we're going to prove our point. Look, I'm a dick because I wouldn't have put them in the top 10. I saw what they looked like without their quarterback. And I was like, I honestly do not think. And my team, my Wildcats, we lost to Clemson in a bowl game that we probably should have won, but we shit the bed. And then we rolled around in it. And then we did it again. It's only choking if it's in the fourth quarter. We were up big and then we pooped. It was worse than choking. We just stopped. Anyway, I don't think FSU could have beaten Clemson or Kentucky if they brought everybody and they were all in. I think that
And I
FSU
think that
team,
we can agree that they kind of got lucky against Louisville. I mean, it's not that Louisville was a barn burner, but you play that game 9 times out of 10, I think Louisville comes on top.
and Louisville lost to Kentucky, and Louisville was not a good team. There's a meme going around that like, do you need to beat a team in the SEC? Do you need to beat a team that's in the South but not really good enough to be in the SEC that has a ranking for some reason? Come on down and play the Louisville Cardinals. Like that was going around, and it's just I'm tired of FSU. I'm tired of the dumb takes that came with it. I'm tired of the people whining about like they didn't follow the rules without actually knowing the criteria. I'm tired of the stupid politicians whining and saying that they're going to sue. And I'm like, go ahead, please go ahead and sue. That bitch will be over before discovery is finished, and that bitch will be over shortly, I should say. So fuck them, fuck FSU, fuck their fans. Don't want to hear about it. I feel bad for their coach. I feel bad for their players.
I mean, there's still talk that Michigan might have their title vacated. How
That's
much
going to be
possibility?
hilarious. It's going to be
think
hilarious.
it might happen?
I think it will happen. If you put a gun to my head,
wow,
yeah, hell yeah, they're guilty. We know they did it. And you can actually, when they started doing it, they started winning. Now that might be coincidental. It's not like they did it for as extended period of time like the Astros did it, and the Astros kept doing it after they got caught and told to not do it.
Right.
They have their World Series for something, weak commissioner, but fuck the Astros and their shitty fans. I don't know. I think they're going to get vacated. I also think that what doesn't help them is Harbaugh is pretty much despised, and when you're about to be punished and people hate you, sometimes it makes it worse. I don't know if they should or shouldn't. I would bet that they did it enough to an extent where vacating it would be reasonable. But I do withhold the right to. I reserve judgment until I get the full-fledged report. But it did not. The what came out did not look good. I will say that.
Now we know that next year it's going to 12 teams, but let's say hypothetically it was never going to change. It'd still be 4. Does this year, like, I know how you feel about last year with TCU, but does this year give you pause hypothetically that if it wasn't going to change, that they still need to rework it? Because I think in some ways watching this game with Washington, it was a little bit deceiving because, yeah, it was tight early, but then Michigan pulled away. And to me, it kind of like just told me that Washington still wasn't quite there to compete with Michigan.
Yeah, Washington. The other thing too, and I will defend Washington. Michigan was a horrible matchup for them. They were the only team in the country, and this is how fickle college sports fans and pundits are. For up until that game, so let's just say that the game was played yesterday. Okay, up until about a month ago, a lot of people were saying we don't know how good Michigan's defense is, and I'm sitting there and I'm like. I was like, I don't know. I see a lot of motherfuckers are going to play on Sunday, but
I was worried more about the offense than I was defense.
Yeah, maybe I'm the asshole here. Okay, and so Michigan had the best defense in the country, and they were stacked. They were loaded, and Washington probably needed another elite wide receiver or tight end to be able to bust through a team that was going to be getting pressure, whether they blitzed or not, and cover well. And so Michigan was they were the best coach team this year. They had the most talent. So I thought that Washington was worthy. Honestly, I got to be frank. Texas was a little bit better than I thought that they were as well. I do think that they got 4 pretty good teams in. It's just that this year, and it's strange to say because usually Michigan's the one on the. Usually this is what's happening in Michigan. It's like we're really good, and then either we, shit the bed, or we just run up against a team that's just flat out better than us. It's brutal because I could argue till I'm blue in the face that Georgia should have been in. I don't think Georgia beats Michigan. I wouldn't have believed that a month ago, but having watched what Michigan did, I think it would have been a game. I think if they played each other 10 times, I don't think Michigan would win 10 times. So maybe the Bulldogs win 2 or 3 times, and maybe that's just that game is just what shows up the one time that they actually play. But brother, it was just Washington just ran up against it's like all right, which was the better Broncos Super Bowl team with Elway?
Probably 99.
99.
I mean, it's definitely a 99. They're so close to in comparison, but obviously, if I recall, it's been so long. The second Super Bowl run, I think we may or may not had Darren Gordon the punt return before that, and he really changed some games for us during that course of the year. Like he was like an added factor.
Yeah.
We still had Neil Smith and Alfred Williamson and all them, and so. But I think overall, Denver really was catching their stride. That was the year we kind of went 13-0 before we lost like 2 or 3 games. But it's hard to say. I mean, we were very good those 2 years because Terrell was playing very well.
Yeah,
At the time, the line could do whatever the fuck they wanted, chop blocking and all that aside. They were able to take that scheme and run with it. And Elway was playing. Yeah.
So I'm pulling up the playoff bracket from 1999.
Okay.
Do you remember?
So it was a rematch. No, that was the year before. The rematch with Jacksonville was 98.
Okay, so this is saying that 99 was the Rams Titans one. So it's 97, 98, 98,
Correct.
99.
Yeah.
So here, let me pull up 1990. 8 because I knew what you meant, but they put the hyphen there for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, let me pull up. Okay, so in the AFC, you won the West. You were the number 1 seed. The Jets were the 2 seed. The Jags were the 3 seed.
Yeah.
The Dolphins were the wild card. The Bills were a wild card, and then the Patriots for a wild card. For our younger listeners, there used to just be 3 divisions:
Yep.
East, West, and Central. So if you take a look at the Jets that year, God, it's so weird seeing the Jets with a high seed. Like that feels like something that only could happen hypothetically.
Hey,
But
I
the Jets,
remember
they
that
were a good
game
team.
clearly.
They were a
I
good
remember
team.
that game clearly.
They were a good team. But they just ran up against somebody. It's like the Steelers do this a lot. Like they would do this to Titans a lot. Like the Titans are like, oh, we're so good. We have a strong running game and a good defense and a solid coach and blah, blah, blah. And they go into Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's like, we're the better version of you. We have a better running back.
Does it show you the scores of the games that were played?
No, this is Wikipedia. Wait,
Okay.
no. It does. So Jacksonville 25 over New England with 10. The Jets over Jacksonville 24-10. Denver, oh my God, you beat Miami 38-3.
Okay.
And Miami
now pause
yeah.
that because earlier towards the end of the year, we went to Miami to play Marino and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Dolphins beat us. It wasn't like a blowout, but they beat us. We don't play traditionally well in Miami. We've already showed that this year. I remember when they said that Miami was coming to Denver, and I remember telling people, I said, you may not believe in this, but Miami hates cold weather.
Yeah.
They hate it. They hate it. This is why when we get into our little playoff brackets for this year, I'm going to be saying similar things.
Yeah.
I knew we were going to beat Miami. I didn't know it was going to be quite that bad, but we had a point to make in that game, and we did. But the other thing about, you brought up the Jets, how well they played, and that was behind Vinny Testaverde at the time.
Yeah, they got good. Vinny Testaverde was either really good or awful. Like that was his career was just.
And it's so funny about that game because it wasn't so much that Denver beat them. It was the weather was really weird. It wasn't snowing or raining or anything, but it was just highly windy.
Yeah.
So I remember it was hard for teams to throw the ball going one direction.
Yeah.
And Denver had kind of I think we had turned it over at one point, fumbled it or something. They were up 10-3 at half or something. We were in danger of losing that game. And in the second half, there was just a weird play where we kicked it off, and I'm trying to recall exactly how it went down, but we kicked it off, and the ball, as it went, it bounced by the returner, but then bounced back. So you know how kickoffs work. You have to actually cover the ball. Otherwise, if another opponent gets it, they can take the ball where it's at. We recovered that ball as if it was like a fumble, even though it was the wind that was pushing it different ways. So that was when the tide kind of turned a little bit, where we were closer to the end zone. We were running.
Like you had the funkiest offside or onside kick ever, basically.
Right? Yeah. And so that was the thing. It was like that win, man. We didn't win that game by a lot, and it was just a crazy game. I remember being very nervous about the way things were going.
And that's sort of what I'm getting. Like you ended up, it was 23-10, so it might look like a more lopsided game than it really was.
Right.
But what I'm saying is the Jets, that team, that was a good team. No one can sit there and say that Jets team they weren't good. And if you played 10 times, you weren't going to beat them 10 out of 10 times, right? You were the better team. You're going to beat them way more, probably 7-3, 8-2, maybe 6-4, whatever. That's what Washington ran into. If they played Michigan 10 times, they wouldn't get 10-0'd. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
But they would lose more often than not. And sometimes you're just really good and you run up against somebody better. Sometimes, sometimes you get to the top of the mountain and you're just like, God damn it, why? Why is he here? Why? But for him, it would be us. But he's him. And it's not us. I should put that on a fucking t-shirt. That was poetic. That was
it's
poetic.
not us.
It's not us. And
All
that's
right.
how I felt for Washington.
Let's start talking some NFL playoffs, because one thing we learned at the end of the regular season was Denver couldn't even beat the Raiders, even when really nothing was on the line, but we have no pride. So
They
we
played.
still lost.
The Raiders were playing for everything.
Yeah. But the Steelers, they needed some things to fall in place, and surprisingly, it did. Like
Here's my
Jacksonville
favorite stat
lost,
about that.
okay,
If we like the stat going around was 24 to 28 was the percent with our chances to get into the playoffs.
yeah,
It shot up to 78% if we beat Baltimore. Okay. So when I saw what we needed, I was like, oh, fuck, we're going to make it. And everyone was like, well, yeah, I know Lamar's not going to play, but it's Baltimore. You got to play in Baltimore. And I'm like, great. Look at Mike Tomlin's record in Baltimore. And he's been there forever. It's a really good record. And there's no Lamar. So I'm like, we're going to win. Frankly, I thought that we were going to beat that ass a little bit harder, but we won relatively convincingly. And then I was like, all right, so I either need the Jaguars to implode or the Dolphins to win. And after the first half of that Jaguars game, like I'm nervous. I want to make the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. I didn't know that Watt was going to be hurt and all that. But after that first half, I was like, the Jags don't have it. Now, the troll in me wants to say it's the curse of the terrible towel because there's a
lot of people
long
are saying that.
record. Do not fuck with the terrible towel. If you do, your season will implode. It is a just look that up. Ask the Bengals in 2005 what happened. Ask Hushmanzada. Ask the Jaguars because they were playing with it and
Did
being
we do anything in
disrespectful.
2005? Because we lost to the Steelers in the AFC Championship game.
No, you just.
Oh, we had Curse of the Plumber. That's
You
what
had
we
the curse.
had.
You had the curse of the plumber and Heinz
Yeah.
Ward, kind of styled on Champ Bailey. But then you hit us back with that old Tebow special. So it's
Yeah,
the old Tebow.
God rest Demaryius Thomas, man. God rest his soul.
R.I.P. to Demaryius Thomas, fucking one of my favorite players ever. Great player, great human being. He is missed. If you don't like Demaryius Thomas, you're a bitch. And your mom's a bitch too. That's I said it, and I will not backtrack on that one at all. Demaryius Thomas is that dude, and R.I.P. True King. But you don't fuck with the towel, and they were waving it around, being disrespectful. And then what happened? What happened? Their defense shit the bed. Their offense didn't do anything. Trevor Lawrence kept getting hurt. Doug Peterson was beside himself. The Titans were playing for everything because they're a prideful team. It was fourth down. Trevor throws a shitty pass, or maybe it's I don't know if the pass was shitty or the route was shitty. Something was shitty.
Watching though, I wasn't really watching the game too much. I watched a little bit of that Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, but I watched more of your responses during the game. And you're like, Mason, what the fuck are you doing?
I'll say some real shit.
It's like you're up and down the entire time, like, yeah, baby. Oh, boy, I hope Watt's not dead. No, please.
Yeah. TJ Watt, the rightful defensive player of the year. Okay, so I'm just gonna run this out. I'm not gonna rant about it. I'll just say this.
Get ready, folks. He's gonna rant.
I'm actually not. He's not gonna win. It's gonna go to Myles Garrett because the media loves that guy. I don't know why. They love a guy who's just a worse pass rusher than Parsons.
Yeah, but Myles hates Randolph. Like
they are enemies, and I'm not prepared to go into that.
All right.
But this is what I will say. Myles Garrett was a legitimate contender for the award, and he hurt his arm or his shoulder. The last 5 games, he's had 1 sack or a half a sack. I think it was 1 sack. His pass rush win rate was still really good. It was behind Parsons and TJ Watt. Here's the problem. He's not awful. He's not good against the run. I mean, you can see it on tape. AFC North fans would tell you one of the things they always want their team to do is run at him. He's huge and strong and fast and powerful, but against the run, he's more Dwight Freeney than he is Reggie White, and it's weird. He's not the defensive player of the year, and he's not better than TJ Watt. So let's go to the other guy who should have a real argument. It should be Crosby, but Crosby didn't make the playoffs, and as such, he's not going to garner as
Yeah,
much.
I think that's such an unfair thing.
It is. It's stupid. It should be the defensive player of the year should be the best defensive player of the year. So
Right.
I'm going to skip over Crosby, and I would usually give him the time of day, but he's a Raider, so fuck him. Like I don't care. Get fucked, pussy, make the
Raiders,
playoffs,
fuck
motherfucker.
that dude, man.
Get fucked. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Cowboys. Micah Parsons is a better talent than TJ Watt. And Micah Parsons also does coverage like Watt does. And now his coverage responsibilities are much more intense. Watt will drop back and play a little zone. It's really more like open field tackle, the running back, or like whatever. It's not kind of gimmicky, but he does it. Parsons will actually cover people. He doesn't do it as much because he's so great against. I mean, he's just an amazing defender. Watt has more sacks. He has more forced fumbles. He has, or as many forced fumbles. I'd have to double check. He has more pass defense, all this stuff. And I will simply go over it for Watt. 19 sacks to Parsons 14. He has 36 knockdowns to Parsons 33. Now, Watt does get to rush the pass rusher more than Parsons. That is completely and utterly fair. Be that as it may, 4 forced fumbles and 3 fumble recoveries to Parsons 1. Interception, defensive touchdown, and 6 passes defensed. Parsons has 0 in those categories. This is from Bill Barnwell from ESPN, an actual journalist and whatnot. Run stop rate when praises them is similar. This is a quote, although we've seen teams take advantage of Parsons' aggressiveness when they've run on the Cowboys this season. So this is what I'm getting at. Parsons is close. If he gets it, it's still wrong. But it's much more reasonable. But TJ Watt, he's not as flashy as those guys. He's not as exciting. He's not going to get the ball is snapped and then he gets an instant sack like those guys. Okay. He's going to get more of the I'm running through motherfuckers and barbarianing them. He's going to get more impactful run stopping plays. He's going to cause more forced fumbles. He's going to be an overall better defender. We've either just gotten tired of TJ Watt and him just being Aaron Donald was the best defensive player in football. He's still really good. He's a little over. At this point, no one can argue that Watt's the best defensive player in football. I mean, you could do it, but it's just very silly. He's the only player in NFL history to lead the league in sacks 3 times. In the last 4 years, TJ Watt, Bosa, TJ Watt, sack leader. That one year, Watt got hurt. He tied the sack record on 16 games. They played 17. He played 16. He missed 1 game. And he actually broke the record, but Baltimore scored it improperly because they wanted to give us a middle finger. And then the league didn't want to overturn it. And I understand they didn't want to overturn it based off of that would have been anticlimactic. It would have looked bad. It would have looked like favoritism. So my point is that I think we've gotten bored with Watt just being better than everybody. I think that we're tired of him being the only elite player in the NFL who has pass rush, run stopping, and coverage responsibilities as an edge player other than Micah Parsons. And I think that we just want to give the award to somebody who plays a more aesthetically promising brand of football. But this is one thing that we can't take away from Watt. You can talk about all your advanced statistics, and Pro Football Focus said that he had 20 sacks and not 19, but he was tied. You can talk about pass rush, win rate, and what a hurry is and a quarterback hit is. And I watch these games and I see how they score them, and it's not consistent. At the end of the day, when it comes time to making a play, and Barnwell goes into this as well, it might be behind a paywall, which is unfortunate. Watt has more big plays than everybody else. He has better overall stats than everybody else. Other than Parsons, he has more responsibilities than everybody else. So they'll probably give it to Garrett because he's aesthetically pleasing and we don't need to run the football or stop a team from running the football. Or maybe they'll give it to Parsons because he's amazing and I do love that guy. And he plays for the Cowboys and they're a more exciting team. But if you know football and you actually care about a combination of stats and proper statistical context and nuances, and you watch the games, you know who daddy is. And TJ Watt is your daddy.
Yeah,
2 sacks, 8 tackles, 3 tackles for loss in that game against Baltimore. He missed an entire quarter.
I think it's just going to come down to Watt and Garrett because really Micah's great, but you just don't hear his name. No one's talking about it. So even if he gets mentioned, I think it's just in passing because I think really it's going to come down to Miles and TJ, really, in my opinion.
And it's Miles Garrett had a case, and then he got hurt, and the production dropped off. I will say this for Parsons. I think sometimes the reasons you don't hear his name is because sometimes in big moments he's doing other things. I think you hear his name too much in the wrong moments, like in between the games when he's not playing, and it's just because he's flashy and super talented and whatnot. And then we don't give him his due enough when he's actually playing, like in an actual game. It's weird. I will tell you this, and this is always funny for my and I don't hate the Cowboys, but they could have drafted Watt. Theoretically, they could have both Watt and Parsons. They
Yeah, you
drafted
know who we could have had?
a lot of guys.
We could have
Josh Allen.
We could have Devin White, man.
Yeah,
would have been set at fucking middle linebacker.
You could have had a lot of guys.
Yeah,
but you could have had Justin Herbert and Josh Allen.
We're gonna start. You and I, we did this simulator. We're picking our picks for the playoffs, and we took screenshots of our choices as well as our Super Bowl winner and the score. We're gonna start from the bottom left and work our way right for the first round, and then so on. So, first game up, the Buccaneers hosting the Eagles.
Yep.
We'll show your picks here because I forgot who you even picked, but you can explain your philosophy and your talk. So you picked the Eagles.
I picked the Eagles.
How do you feel about this game?
Horrible. Absolutely terrible. That is the game I'm least confident in. The Eagles are playing terribly. Jalen Hurt got hurt. AJ Brown is dinged up. Devontae Smith is dinged up. Their offensive coordinator doesn't use their running backs properly. Their defense used to at least be sort of good, and they're a sieve. I think their head coach is good, but he's floundering. They're a team in disarray.
Yeah.
But they are more talented. They do have Super Bowl experience, and the Bucs are a 9-win team in the worst division in football. Like 9 wins, won their division. The Bengals were last in the AFC North with a 9-8 record. So the Bucs are really, if they played in the AFC, they probably have a losing record. They're pretty mediocre. Okay. I believe in Mike Evans. I believe in the new version of Baker Mayfield. I'm happy for him. I never thought that I'd be rooting for Baker Mayfield, but after that whole Cleveland fiasco and Deshaun Watson and whatnot, fuck him. I like the new version. I like the new version of the Bucs. I like the new version of Baker, and it's really tough. I'm going to be honest. I don't care what the stats say. I don't think Tampa has a really good defense or a really bad defense. I think they have a defense.
It's like middle tier probably.
I am banking on experience and overall talent and not a complete implosion. And I sat and stared at that pick the longest. If the Bucs win, please flame me for not having the courage of my conviction. But please know I'll also be happy because it will be hilarious.
Yeah, there's 2 teams in this playoff system that I have probably one more than the other, but almost 100% confidence they will lose this first round. And Philadelphia is the first one. I think the Bucs are scrappy.
Yeah, they are.
I think they again, you're right. On paper, the Eagles should be dominating this game.
They should.
And they might. They may get their shit together.
They beat them this year.
Yeah, so they may come out here and just do business, but the Bucs, man, like just every time I think that they're gonna really implode, like just fall off the map, they just don't. They keep getting scrappy. They keep playing well. Sure, they're in a bad division, but the NFC East was kind of a clusterfuck too. You never knew till the final couple of weeks who was gonna win that fucking thing.
Yeah.
I'm worried because I look at this and I had to do a double take when I heard that the Eagles had just lost 3 games in a row. I'm like, are you fucking serious?
And they shouldn't.
Right. And so I think you draw a lot of good points about what their issues are, and I think a lot of it too is mentality. Like the mentality's gone. There's no leader there. There's no one's like riding the ship.
The only one they have is Hurts, And you can only I think he's barely holding them together. They're a dysfunctional team. Look,
Yeah,
AJ Brown,
and that's the thing. Like a Bucks team can take advantage of that. Like they can
they
come in.
absolutely can't. Like Eagles, hold on, Eagles injury report. I am horrified to look at this. I am horrified. Oh sweet God. Okay. Swift did a full practice. He was sick. Devontae Smith had a full practice, but he hurt his ankle. It didn't look great. Slay had a full practice, but he's been banged up. Hurt his finger. Well, we won't really know how good that finger is until we see him play. Some guy named Britton Covey, he doesn't matter. Sidney Brown didn't practice. Brown didn't practice. Yeah, so AJ Brown didn't practice. Sidney Brown didn't practice, and Reed Blankenship didn't practice. So I think all those guys, or most of those guys, are going to play. I know Jalen's going to play. But the strength of that team really is its offense. Now, presuming that Swift is healthy, he should make a big impact, but their offensive coordinator has no idea how to use them, and it makes me want to throw things at the television when I see him standing there wide open and the ball's not going to him, or when I see him block. Why is he blocking? He is tiny. His last name is Swift for a reason. He should have the ball in his hands so he can be.
Yeah.
They'll put Maxwell in. The only thing that guy really is, like, he's a legit NFL player, but he's only excellent at blocking. And then they're like, "Oh, we tricked you. We're gonna let him run the ball, or he'll catch the ball." And it's like that. Really, my argument boils down to experience and better players. That's it. And it's not like do you remember when the Cowboys had been injured all year and they got healthy around the playoffs and everyone was like, oh, this is bad, and they won the Super Bowl? I think that was their last Super Bowl.
Is that the one where they start out like 0-3 and then?
Yeah, I think so.
Emmett Smith and them, yeah.
And then the end of the year, like 12-4 or something, just piece some motherfuckers up. The Eagles are the exact opposite of that. And and they didn't even win a Super Bowl recently with that iteration of the team. So
right.
I'm horrified for them. I think that they will pull it out. But if they lose and it's a close game, what you're going to hear is it's not fair that a team hosts the playoff game against another team that had a better record. And I agree.
But the argument's going to be is like, win your division, dude.
You win your division, and the AFC. Look, there have been times when the NFC East has been absolute dog water as well. So it's cyclical. The other thing is like, they're the 4 seed, you're the 5 seed. Your schedule is better. You've played there, you've won there. There's no injuries. I'm just saying you're going to hear about it. I do think that maybe winning the division means too much. Wave is always, shout out to brother Wave. He's always kind of made that, maintain that position. I will say this. If they lose the Bucks, I'm expecting Mike Evans to have a stat line of like 200 yards and like 2 touchdowns, or like 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, I'm expecting a vintage Mike Evans game where he's just like, I'm going to run by you and I'm bigger than you. And it's just like, man, we don't really talk about that guy enough. I'm a huge Mike Evans fan. I fucking love that guy. That's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. You know what, man? I don't like the Eagles. Most people don't like the Eagles. Their fan base is what it is, and that's coming from a Steelers fan. I'm rooting for the Bucks. I'll tell you that much.
Same here, kind of. I mean, I don't hate the Eagles per se. I've kind of softened my stance on Hurts going back to last year. You and I were talking about him a lot. I was never a big sold on him, but he was a good story, and I was rooting for him in the Super Bowl, of course. But
you were a big Hurts fan that day.
Yeah. But yeah, Baker's a good story too. Like you said, he took a lot of shit in Cleveland. Look they made it to the playoffs, but man, they were really patchworking their way to the playoffs this year. So the second game on the list is one that could go either way, and I know you and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum on this one. I know why you want this one this way.
Oh, yeah, I want it. I want it real bad. You gonna throw mine up?
Me and Neko, though, we're going for Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Hosting the Rams. Now, of course, my boy over here, he's got to stick with his Rams, man. He's a Stafford dude, so
I'm
he's
a
going to
Stafford
stay
dude.
there.
The Rams have been my NFC team for a long time.
But I think it's the year, as Neca would put it, the year of the Gosling. Because it's funny, I had to go back and see. Remember when we did the start of the year? We were picking the divisions and everything else, and I can't remember if Neco said that Detroit was going to win that division.
She
Like,
did.
I
She
remember
did.
her mentioning it, and I think she
Oh
did.
no, she said it, and we rode on her, and we
gave her a lot of shit. She didn't say anything about the Super Bowl really, but until like a few weeks later.
No, she picked them to win the Super
Did
Bowl
she?
too.
Yeah.
She did.
I've got to find that, dude, because if it happens, oh my god.
Then
We'll have to retire if that happens. You know that,
if
right?
if they do, you have to like wash your feet, and I have to mow your yard or something. Like,
yeah, in a thong. Like,
why do you hate your neighbors?
Dead winter too. That's even better. Then your nipples are nice and hard.
I'm from the Midwest. I don't give a shit. Like, it's so cold in the North. Yeah, shut up.
I wear shorts to work, and chicks are like, they're like, I can't believe you're in shorts. I'm like, I'm a polar bear, baby. I can
I'm from the Midwest. It doesn't even care. It doesn't even matter about that Arabian blood. I don't care about the cold. Like, I'll get a sinus infection and be in a shitty mood. What else is new?
So how do you see this game playing out? Because obviously Stafford and company, they're
styling. They're hot.
They've been scrapping their way to the playoffs, which is cool to see.
Here's the thing. This is the game I'm most confident in. One of the games I'm most confident in. First off,
even in Detroit,
it's a dome. It's a dome, and they're bringing Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is the Detroit Lions, right? Like he is. Like there's Barry Sanders. He's the king of Detroit. Okay. And then there's Calvin Johnson, who was beloved. And in between those two, it's Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford had a Hall of Fame career in Detroit. It looked different.
No, Stafford did. He did.
Because those teams were ass.
You had to sit there and say to yourself, and this is what's so funny about this whole, we talked about like 4 weeks ago that this matchup could happen.
Yeah.
And we talked about, you and I over the years have talked about how Stafford was just basically trying to carry Detroit Lions
team and taking insane physical abuse while doing it. And this is one of the things.
Then when they finally switched, I'm like, oh my god, they just tossed Jared Goff to the fucking Lions to be eaten alive, and then all of a sudden, Goff is playing better. Like, I couldn't believe it.
I was a Jared Goff guy too. So I am. Here's when it comes to quarterbacks. This is my track record. If I hit, it's not just a home run. Like, that bad boy is going 800 feet. It's landing on a fucking train track. The train's picking up. It's going 3 miles. If I miss, I'm like, hey guys, I think that Josh Rosen guy is going to be pretty good. Okay, so it's an extreme. But what I am good at, I'll watch a quarterback play, and I can tell you after a year or two how good they actually are, based off of not just their play, but what they have around them. And so this is why I'm picking the Rams. Matt Stafford's back. That spine, whatever was going on with it, we don't talk about that anymore. He's back slinging that ball like it's 2015. Puka Nacua is unguardable. Cooper Kupp is back. Kyron Williams is a beast. It's a McVay offense again. And that Detroit defense, which is better than what I thought it would be, it's had its extreme ups and downs. You saw what Lamar did to them. That was very disrespectful. What the Ravens did to them. It was very bad. It was very bad what happened. They're gonna get victimized. And what the Rams are going to be able to do on defense, they're going to get just enough pressure on Goff to disrupt him. Laporta, I don't know if he's playing. He hurt his knee. That's a huge loss for them. You can run the ball on the Rams a little bit, but it's not like they get completely dominated. And at the end of the day, here's the biggest difference. McVay is a head coaching genius. Campbell is just a good coach. When I say just, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but there's levels to this. McVay's a top 5 head coach in football. Dan Campbell is solidly in the top 10. You have to give him credit.
Despite all that, though, I don't want to drag this too long on this one, but why do you think they struggled so much early in the season?
The Rams? Health.
Yeah.
Matt Stafford was still getting health. Cooper Kupp wasn't playing because of the hamstring. They hadn't found Kyron Williams wasn't starting yet. They ended up trading that awful running back to Minnesota. The guy that he came out of FSU, so no wonder he sucked. Akers, Cam Akers, Cam Akers. Yeah, catch another stray, FSU.
He ain't
fucking-
done busted on
Yeah,
FSU.
FSU stands for fucking shitty university. That's what that means. Anyway, it's they also played a brutal stretch. Like when the Steelers beat them, I was horrified of the Rams because I was like, if we beat them, it's only going to be because they're not healthy, and we barely beat them. And on top of that, as much as I hate to say this, we got some favorable calls down the stretch too. Like we got some ref luck, and since then, since they've been healthy, it's brutal. Like it's a like the Rams. The Rams are like they are the scariest team, like out of like that category of they're not Super Bowl contenders, but you don't want to play them. That's them.
When you migrated from the Bengals to the Steelers, like why didn't you just go with the Rams? Like, why isn't that your team?
Oh, so okay. So I'll try to be succinct. So I'm living in Central Illinois. I'm born in Cincinnati. And I'm getting the only NFL games I've been to in person were Rams games because Springfield's about an hour and a half from St. Louis, give or take, just the geography. Big football fan in general. And I just want to go to a game. We got some good deals on the tickets. I just go. I don't really have an NFC team at that point. I just have some players in FC that I like and root for. At the time, I was a big Aaron Rodgers fan. He has made it, and I still am, but he has made it very difficult for a variety of reasons to like him. That's neither really here nor there. He's just kind of annoying and pouty. So pouty ho. And so I go to the game. I'm watching the Rams. I go to a couple preseason games. I went to two regular season games. I was like, I'm going to keep these tickets forever. Absolutely not. Fucking lost them almost immediately. And so it's when I look at the Bengals and I'm like, I'm done with them because I don't have any ties to Ohio, and I'm tired of Mike Brown, and the Marvin Lewis stuff was bothering me. And honestly, it just got to a point for political reasons, which we won't get into. Ohio was just sickening me. And that should be a pretty big signal to people if you think around that time. I'm like, I've posted on this Denver Bronco fan message board for 12 years at the time, for over a decade. And I was like, I'll go be a Broncos fan and things will work out and everyone will love my opinions and nothing will go wrong. So then flash forward a couple of years.
This was your response to that, right?
I haven't got time for this Mickey Mouse bullshit.
I just I always have a soft spot for him. Shout out to the board and people that post there. They know I love them. But
yeah, for if anyone ever sees this, like it should be noted. All right, this is the thing that's happening with the Bronco forums. If you've ever been a part of that. The forum does not come up for me anymore. It's all fucked up. It's wiggy. I tried to figure it out. Problem is, I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to figure it out because it's nothing else on my browsers is fucked up except for that site. So, obviously now I'm on Discord with Mr. King here and a few stragglers from Broncos forums that are over there. And then I recently just kind of went back to the Orange Huddle, which is a new Bronco board that's came out of Orange, Maine, that was closed down. So if you are looking for me, I go by the name of Geralt, the Witcher guy on that forum. So if you're looking where I'm posting these days, Bronco related stuff, that's where I'm going to be at. So just a side note there. So the last game in the NFC for the wild card round, of course, is the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Green Bay Packers, which, credit to you, Packers made it. They are in the playoffs. I think you picked them to win division. They didn't do that, but they did get to the playoffs. And that for a while it was kind of sketchy. They were really having a hard time there. But, shout out to Jordan Love and company. They got their shit together and got some wins in there. However, you're running into a buzzsaw that is the Dallas Cowboys. The only thing that's working in their favor, Dallas is not a good postseason team usually. So
No, they have Mike McCarthy, but they're at home. So
yeah,
Dallas
yeah,
at home is really strong. Um,
yeah. So I know I chose Dallas to move on in that game, and I'm pretty sure you did too.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did. I'll say this: if the Packers win, it's one of two routes. I guess maybe technically three. There's a Mike McCarthy meltdown in there somewhere. All right, because as is tradition, and then
Does
either
does
George.
Mike does Mike though? Does he come into this game with any kind of like revenge in his eyes? Because he used to coach Green Bay, so
I would imagine he won a bunch of games there. He won a Super Bowl there. Aaron Rodgers got all the credit. Then he left, and
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers kept winning MVPs, and he's done pretty well in Dallas. I can understand him feeling raw about it. I mean, the problem is that like pretty much everyone believes that Mike McCarthy has a ceiling and he's a good coach with severe flaws, and those flaws haven't really been changed. So I mean, it's Mike McCarthy is he's like the John Fox of
Yeah.
off where and I know John Fox never won a Super Bowl. McCarthy did, but John Fox never. He had Jake Delhomme. McCarthy had prime Aaron Rodgers, or into
Right.
prime Aaron Rodgers. But it's like he's a good coach. He's going to help you turn it around, but there's a ceiling on him. And so Mike McCarthy probably has some resentment there, and I understand it. And he probably would love to absolutely crush the Green Bay Packers. So if the
Mhm.
Packers win, Jordan Love either went off or Dak was horrible and or both, and there is a McCarthy meltdown in there. But I will take the Cowboys firmly.
First
I've just
game in the
cursed them.
AFC wild
I have
card.
just
This game,
ruined your
this game, I just
You
went
can't
back and
wait.
forth.
You can't
Huh?
wait for this one. This is your game. I know this is the one you want to see the most.
Actually, well, there's one after this that's the most intriguing because mainly because of who I actually went with.
Yeah.
The deep down, you and I we spoke about this. CJ Stroud is a fucking amazing rookie, having a fantastic year. They're being hosting the Cleveland Browns. To me, I still feel like this game could go either way. And I know it's strange to say because Flacco is going to be leading the Browns. He has a lot of experience. He's been a Super Bowl winner, and I still had to go with the Browns. I just had to because of what it means for the next round for me. I didn't see who you picked. I didn't remember, so I'm going to show it now. You picked the Brownies. So, what is your reasoning in this game? How do you see this going down? Defense?
I I am not going to say that the moment's too big for Stroud, and it is at home, but he's going against an elite defense. And while Flacco is playing way above his head, he is a hot quarterback in terms of production, and he has a lot of experience to draw on. Uh,
Mm,
this is D'Amico Ryan's first year as a coach. So, Coach Ryan's, respect to you, you're a stud. Stefanski, who is would have been my pick for Coach of the Year. That the fact that his offense has even been tolerable with so many backup quarterbacks and whatnot is really a testament to
it
and
is.
Nick
Like I
Chubb.
said, they were using patchwork all year long.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I
absolutely.
told Neko the other night. I said, had Flacco been on the Browns when we played him, we would have lost.
Yeah, you
We
might
would have
have.
lost that game. Yeah,
It's and
because
he's
we were just fortunate that we had. I think we played with against a rookie guy for a while, and then they brought in Walker, who is only like a career backup.
PJ Walker. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
yeah, they've been through so many quarterbacks, and it's with Flacco, he's playing with house money too, because he's
yep.
like 4,000 years old. He's elder Flacco. And it's look, at the end of the day, if the Texans won, I wouldn't be shocked, but it does seem to be asking a lot. And Stroud also, Tank Dell was probably his best wide receiver this year.
Yeah.
He's out. Their running backs have been nicked up. Their offensive line isn't really that great. So I expect Miles Garrett to get a couple sacks against, they have a
And
pretty good
I
left
think that's
tackle.
really what it's going to come down to because we kind of we saw it during the Denver game against Houston. They were just harassing Russell all day long on defense, and if you're going to beat Cleveland, you got to get into Flacco's face and knock him around. You just have to. Like, that's the only way you're going to do it. I just don't know if they're good enough to get past that Browns line, which is pretty stout. And Flacco, again, he has the experience. So it's really just going to come down to how both quarterbacks play. If Stroud makes mistakes, it's going to be a problem. If Flacco somehow reverts to one of his former selves where he wasn't quite as good, then they're going to have problems. But for now, I think the Browns got the momentum. I think they're a little bit more experienced, especially at quarterback. I think that's how they're going to get it done.
It would be so funny if Joe Flacco's their starting quarterback next year and they're paying Deshaun Watson whatever insane number it is.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, then I can sit there and say, "Thank God we had Russ and not Deshaun." Because
yeah, I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
and it's rough.
So the next game, we're going to get back to what I was talking about earlier when you were pulling up the Broncos Super Bowl stuff and the runs. How Miami just does not like cold weather. Well, they are a strange team because if you looked at Miami throughout most of the year, you would think they were the absolute favorites to come out of the AFC. And I know Tyreek was a big year MVP for most valuable player for the year.
Can't give it to him, unfortunately.
They have to go to KC. Like, that's the thing. Like, in Miami, I'd probably feel more confident with this game, but you're going to KC. And I know that, Kansas City's been kind of shaky all year long, but at home, it's a lot colder weather. Mahomes.
It's supposed to be like -10 or something.
It probably is, man. And like, I don't care. Even I don't want to be in that cold weather playing. I'd much rather be in Miami where it's humid and hot as fuck rather than in that cold weather.
That's why that loss to Buffalo was so brutal.
I was so shocked, dude, because I remember going to bed because I had to work the next day. And when I woke up, I saw the score. I said, "Holy fuck, Buffalo pulled that out. Oh my God." And so I didn't even see you picked Kansas City too. So clearly you have the same thoughts that I do.
It's going to be horrible. The Dolphins are going to get dog walked. They're not going to be able to run the ball north and south because they're an east-west team. Tua does not, as much as I like him, I think he's a good quarterback. I think some people are too hard on him. He doesn't have a huge arm, and it's going to be windy and shitty and awful there. He's also not playing well. He's not playing well the last couple of weeks. Tyreek Hill has not looked like himself. Jalen Waddle is hurt. Their defense is out Bradley Chubb, who was leading the league in forced fumbles, and Jalen Phillips did an amazing pass rush combo. Thank God Jalen Ramsey came back. And, they're on a streak where they gave up like 42 points in like 6 weeks or something. Jalen Ramsey is still good. But I don't know how big his impact is going to be because Chiefs don't have good wide receivers. Like, they have Rashee Rice, who's pretty good. And so maybe Ramsey locks him up, but I don't know if they're going to let Ramsey travel. And Fangio is a really good defensive guy, but Andy Reid knows what to do against that defense. And I just don't expect anything. I don't expect anything major out of the Dolphins offense, and that's the strength of their team.
The only way that I think that the Dolphins succeed here is, one, they can't turn the ball over. Can't do it. Two, they have to kind of do what Denver did, like in the second game, that shut down Kelsey, man. I don't care if you have to put 3 guys on him. Take away his ability to burn you. Like, that's the only way you're going to do it.
Yep. And look, it's Miami, they're going to need help from their special teams. They're going to need to get some turnovers. Now, Patrick Mahomes has thrown some picks this year. A lot of them are because of – some of them are unforced errors. Like, they were truly bad picks. Some of them were end-of-game interceptions where he didn't have a choice. A lot of them were because the wide receivers were being just awful. And so
I think you and I talked about earlier in the year how Patrick, like, when we talk about quarterbacks holding the ball too long.
Yeah.
JD loves to give me a lot of shit about that, but Patrick was on that list for a reason. The only difference you and I were pointing out at the time was
he makes it work.
Most of the time, Patrick's able to get out of those situations.
Yeah.
But I think this year we're kind of seeing where it's backfiring because whether or not he has the receivers or not, that could be the problem.
He has to. Well, I gave him the same criticism that I gave Russ, and it's like, okay, when you hold on to the ball, and then you're making stuff happen, that's fine. And if you throw a great pass and the guy drops it or it goes off his helmet and you get picked, you can live with it because you didn't fuck up. You made a play and it didn't work out. But if your team keeps screwing that up over and over and over again and it's not working, You have to adjust. Well, I know it's hard, but you have to reel yourself back in and say, I can only do this when I absolutely have to, or every once in a while, maybe, because it's not working and it's hurting us. And it sucks because it's not you. It's like being the manager and having to sweep up afterwards because your crappy employees didn't do what they were supposed to do. But you're the quarterback, you're the one who's paid a lot of money. You have to be, you kind of have to pick up the slack, so to speak. And if you don't do it, you're being stubborn. And so there is some stubbornness there. It's yowza. I just look at that and like that is the Dolphins' route to victory.
Yep. But I still think KC is going to win. I think you do too.
I do.
Now, the last game in the AFC wild card, of course, your team facing the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. I didn't see who you chose. Let me see what the Poet Master is. Oh my fucking god!
Prepare for glory, my brother.
Yeah. See this
It's
guy
happening.
here.
It's
Mr.
happening.
Northman. No,
It's happening. It's happening. And let me tell you how.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear the theory. Let's go.
This is, by the way, this is coming from the man who called the 2 giant Super Bowls with Eli, who called the Bengals making the Super Bowl the year that they did. I hit some home runs every now and again. The Bills, last season, round 1, they play against the Dolphins with a backup quarterback. They shit the bed. They almost lose. It was comical. Or maybe that was 2 years ago. No, last year, they're at home. Snow game. They play against the Bengals. It's the DeMar Hamlin game, right? Like he's back. Yeah. Everyone's rooting for him. They're happy. They play horrible at home in crappy weather. It's supposed to favor them. They get embarrassed. They get beat so bad, they're talking about if they're going to trade Diggs. They get beat so bad, they're talking about if they're going to fire the coach. They get beat so bad, they're talking about what's the direction of the team. The Bengals rolled up on them and gave them that work. The Bills fuck up a lot. Josh Allen is an elite quarterback, and I respect him. He does a lot of goofy shit on the field. They turn the ball over a lot. They barely beat the Dolphins last week. They didn't have Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips. They needed a kickoff return or a punt return. They needed a special teams play to get them back in the game against a pretty lackluster Miami defense. And the Miami offense was doing nothing. Are the Bills the better team? Absolutely. Are we missing the best defensive player in the world? Absolutely. But they turn the ball over a lot. Now, I'm going to be honest. If we play them 10 times, they probably beat us 7 or 8 times. But the Steelers, let's keep this in mind. Nick Herberg is a depth player that we have, a pass rusher player. He's really talented. He's replacing TJ Watt. That boy can get after the quarterback. If you don't believe me, look up his highlights for this season. I'm not saying he's a future All-Pro. I'm saying he's a legitimate pass rusher. Alex Highsmith is a very good pass rusher. Minka Fitzpatrick is back. And so teams have been able to attack the middle of our field because we've been out 2 safeties almost the entire year, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. That was fun. We get Kamikaze back. We get Fitzpatrick back. Our middle linebackers have gotten more snaps together. I got to pick them because this is a volatile, mercurial team. And if the Steelers win, the narrative is going to be afterwards. You know, but we should have seen that coming because the Bills are really up and down. They always have a big letdown in the postseason. We should have seen that coming. Sean McDermott's a good coach, but he's not a great coach. We should have seen that coming. Josh Allen is turnover prone. That's what they will say then. What they're saying now is it's just going to be a wash. Riddle me this. They have Stephon Diggs and who else to throw the ball to? Dalton Kincaid. How's Kincaid been doing the past couple of weeks? Gabriel Davis. His PCL's hurt. I don't know if he's even going to play. So if you look at this game, yeah, the Bills are better, but they don't have the better coach. Their defense is injury-laden and injury, injuries suck. Trust me, I'm feeling it right now. I am simply saying that smart money, I'm not saying it's not on the Bills, but they're a 10-point favorite against a Mike Tomlin coached team. And they're the Buffalo Bills. They are a silly, silly team. And they could go on a heater and do all of that, and they could even make the Super Bowl if they get hot, but they could also lose to the Steelers, and everybody will retroactively be like, we should have seen that coming. So I will take that. Also, here's another one for you. I don't think they can cover George Pickens. I don't think they can cover Deontay Johnson. And it's a shitty weather team. And my team, here's a list of running backs, notable running backs in the game. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, James Cook. 2 of them play for the Steelers.
Ready for the hot take?
I want the hot take. You're picking the Bills to win by 30. You're picking that blowout.
Not quite 30. But
24.
I do think they run away with this game. I will say this. Pittsburgh does have a chance if they keep the score close, they play smash mouth, and they force those turnovers that you talk about that Buffalo tends to make. I was kind of surprised last year when Cincy went in there and beat them as badly as they did, because if I recall, it was snowing in that game. Buffalo's at home. But the thing about this team, like Buffalo, they're definitely a roll of the dice, because you just don't fucking know what you're going to get from week to week. But I have them because they were able to beat Miami and get that home field. Because I think if I recall, if they had lost, they wouldn't even been in the playoffs, which is really weird.
I think they would have fallen to the 6th seed because of the Jags.
Okay, I was under the impression that if they lost,
there was a chance. No, there was before the Jags lost. If the Jags won and the Bills lost, they were out. But because they won and the Jags lost, they were the 2nd seed.
So, but I think because they were able to get that home field game to start this round, I think that's going to play a big factor. And I don't know. Just something tells me that the stage is going to be too big for Mason.
Probably.
And it's really comes down to that. Like, even Pickett would probably be still too big. This is one of those cases where I'm kind of funny for saying this. If Pittsburgh still had Joshua Dobbs, I almost feel better if he was at quarterback.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. Like, I think Pittsburgh's going to have all the right things fall into place. I do get concerned that Watt's not there. You might be right about the guy coming in, still playing well, but
he's only a good pass rusher. He doesn't do the coverage stuff, and he doesn't.
Right.
TJ Watt's insane.
And Watt's just like a different animal. He changes game so often, just by his play alone.
He's a generational player.
So I think it's going to probably be like a 31-17 game.
It could be that way. It honestly could. But, and this is one of the things where I know I'm right, but I can't prove it. If they play each other 10 times, Buffalo wins 6 times.
Right.
They're just too up and down, and people are in love with them right now because they're on a hot streak. And they have their blinders on. I just gotta. I'm picking the Steelers. This is the type of pick that I would make. Because like if you're wrong, everyone points at you and you're wrong. Ha ha. You get it for a while, but when you nail it and you nail it for those reasons, it's hard to talk. And so I look forward to it. And here's the other thing too, and it doesn't matter because he's not playing. But if TJ Watt was playing, we wouldn't be 10-point dogs.
No.
And that's the
Watt effect. The wattage.
That is, yeah. It's going to be
I'll say
fun.
this.
Yeah.
I like Mike Tomlin. I do. And actually, unlike most Bronco fans, I do not hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. I actually like them better than the Ravens. What I will say is if Pittsburgh gets by this game, I hope they make it all the way to the AFC Championship game. I really do.
I think we all hope for them to win the Super Bowl because the Steelers are really
I'm not going to quite go that far.
You love America. You love America, and we're America's team.
That's Dallas.
No, Dallas is not America's team. Absolutely not.
All right, so the second round,
Yes,
NFC. This is where shit starts separating the men from the boys.
Yeah.
San Fran will be hosting, which will either be Philly or Tampa Bay. In my case, it would be Tampa Bay. Your case would be Philly.
In my case,
I certainly think that the dynamic
I have
change.
the Rams. No, for me, it's the Rams because they upset the Lions.
Oh, okay. So I have the Bucks in mine.
Yeah.
You have the Rams. So let's see. What do you got going on here? You have
I got the
Fran
Niners.
going on the Niners winning.
Yep.
I, of course, have Tampa Bay with the Niners winning as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, both games to me are kind of interesting. I still think that in both cases, at least in my opinion, the Niners will probably win pretty comfortably, at least by 10 points. What's your thoughts?
I think the Niners are the class of the NFC. You look at McCaffrey, he's the best back in football. You look at Debo, you look at Ayuk. We don't know exactly how good they are as receivers because of the scheme, but we know that they're top 20 guys, right? We don't know precisely where they have one of the best 1-2 punches in football.
Right.
You could argue Cincinnati, you could argue Philly, there's teams you could argue they're right up there. And they have Kittle, who probably, he might be the best tight end in football this individual season, if you factor in blocking. And so you just look at those weapons, and they're healthy. They managed to get into the playoffs healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said back, what was it, week 8, week 9? If they get into the playoffs healthy, I'm just not going to pick against them unless a team really emerges. Which maybe a spoiler later on.
That was your concern at the beginning of the year when we were talking about, because we were talking about our picks, and you were like, "I just don't think San Fran can stay healthy to get
healthy."
there.
It was the same thing with the Dolphins. I was like, I'd love to pick them to make the playoffs, but I can't because I thought Tua would get his bell rung again. I'm glad that I was wrong.
Right.
It was the same thing with the Jets. I didn't pick them because I didn't believe in Aaron
We all
Rodgers.
thought they would go farther than they did, and it's kind of a miracle they played as well. They did
well as
without
they
Rodgers.
did. Well, I didn't pick them for the playoffs, and then like I was like, I don't believe in Aaron Rodgers' ability to stay healthy, but I want to. And then I didn't know how right I was. I felt like I was the Grim Reaper. It's just the Niners are a different team, and to beat them, you have to put Mike Shanahan Jr. or Kyle Shanahan Jr. I'm sorry, I combined them. You have to put Kyle Shanahan in tough coaching decisions, and he doesn't have a great track record sometimes. You have to really put the pressure on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is a smart quarterback, and he makes good decisions, and he hits some big-time throws, but he's still developing. And if you put him in a 10 out of 10 difficulty situation, he, like most guys, folds up. And, people can make fun of that, but watch Tom Brady in the Super Bowl against the Giants. Watch what Belichick did to Peyton Manning. It's hard to keep answering the bell snap after snap after snap when you're getting your ass kicked. And simply put, neither the Bucs nor the Rams have the ability to do that. And I don't think their offenses can overcome that Niners defense. I will say this, McVay has played the Niners tight. And so they have a puncher's chance because of divisional familiarity. But I'm picking the Niners with full confidence.
Yeah, same here. So the next game is Dallas will be hosting, I think in your case, either Philly, and for
It's
me,
Philly
it'll be
for
Detroit.
me.
Yeah, it'd be Detroit for me. Now, personally, if Detroit gets that far, I'd like to see Detroit kind of move on. Just it's one of those feel-good stories,
The golf
however, I did choose the Cowboys to move on in that game, which is interesting because you have the Eagles, and I think the Eagles match up well with Dallas. So this would be very interesting because if the Eagles get there, this could be the game where the Dallas Cowboys trip up. So I don't know. Let me see who you picked. You just still picked the Cowboys. So you're still confident they're good enough to get past the Eagles too.
Yeah, the Eagles are banged up for the same reasons that we've talked about. Here's the other thing. Cowboys almost beat Philly in Philly. They beat Philly at home. And so it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. With that being said, I think that Philly just comes in floundering. I think they get over the Bucks, and I think that they're at that point kind of maxed out. I don't know. Like, it's hard to think that they're going to get healthier, right? Like, I don't know how bad Devontae and AJ Brown are dinged up, but it's hard to believe that after another week of football, especially if it's a tough game, like I think it will be, that they are feeling that much better. And let's just be honest, while the Cowboys have some severe issues against teams with winning records and whatnot, they don't have severe issues with the Eagles. So could the Eagles win? Absolutely. They're a good enough team to win. And at the end of the day, do they have the same experience to draw on? Do they have divisional familiarity themselves and whatnot? They do. But they still have that secondary, and the Cowboys still have CD Lamb. So I am picking the Dallas Cowboys. God, CD Lamb, what a year for the young man.
Yeah, I'm happy for him actually.
Yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
weird because he was kind of like with no insult to Amari Cooper, but he was kind of second fiddle when he came in with Amari there, and so like he just
Yeah.
kind of took over at that point. But on to the AFC.
That's
The
right.
first game I have Buffalo, of course, moving on, so that means they would be at home again, hosting the Chiefs.
Yep.
And I do think this is more about for Buffalo. It's more about where they are. So in this case, if they're home, I do think they get past the Chiefs. It's still going to be a dogfight because that's just how it is between those teams.
Great
But
games.
at home, I think the home field plays a factor. I think for you, it'd be the Chiefs hosting the Steelers,
Browns.
right? Oh, the
It's Chiefs
Browns.
versus
Okay,
Browns, yeah.
gotcha. Okay, so let me see who you have the Chiefs moving on there. So what is it that they can do that you feel could get them by Joe Flacco and company?
They can cover those wide receivers and they can stop the run. Um, they're going to win that game off the back of their defense. Um, I'll I'll just say this. Patrick Mahomes, I think, would have enough to overcome their defense. I don't think that the Browns would be able to overcome Kansas City's. Now the Browns have had some big special team plays throughout the season. Um, and I respect that. I also, and I've said this for years, and you can back me up on this. I think Kevin Stefanski is a much better coach than he gets credit for.
Mhm.
But that is also Andy Reid. Now, Andy Reid has had some special moments in the playoffs as well, but that is still Andy Reid. I also don't know how Cleveland. I don't know what their answer is for. I don't know what their answer is for Pacheco and Kelsey and Rice. Right? Like
I don't think they'll have a problem with Rice.
it's not. It's. I don't know because he's a yak machine, and if
He is,
Mahomes gets
but
a scramble
uh,
play.
I still
It's
think
the
they have a good enough
off-script stuff
defense.
with Rice that I find more horrifying.
I mean,
Because
they're
they
going to have to kind of do what Detroit did in Game 1 of the year with
yeah,
the Chiefs. Like they're going to have to just harass the shit out of Mahomes. That's always the secret.
yeah,
Just get into the quarterback's face and make him do things he doesn't normally do.
yeah,
Because I've seen it throughout the year when the Chiefs have been struggling and Mahomes is just getting frustrated. He gets
yeah,
really frustrated. That's what you got to do to piss off that team. We pissed off the Chiefs so much by beating them that Kelsey went on some podcast bad mouthing us because we were celebrating that win. I mean,
yeah.
come on, Travis. We got to give us a little love here. We haven't had much of a great thing to celebrate. Breaking that Chiefs Bronco record of you guys owning us for the last 5-10 years. It's like,
Yeah, it wasn't a great look for him. What was that his own podcast with his brother?
I think so. And that's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine, but it just kind of
It's sour
cost
grapes. I mean,
cost us.
like
Yeah.
if you don't want the Broncos to style on you, then don't let the Broncos style on you. I mean,
Right.
that's what it is. Um, I also think that if this was a game for bad Flacco to come back, where he's just chucking it, the Chiefs have two really strong corners. They have really good
Mhm.
corner tandem, and they have some pass rushers. It's weird to think about how really great their defense is this year. Because usually they're an offensive team. But it feels like it's going to be one of those games where, like, at the end of it, it's like a 20-10 or 20-13 game, and you walk away from it going, "That was a shitty game, and I wish I watched something else," because like not a whole lot happened. Um, ugh, it's not. I don't think that'd be an entertaining game.
So our next game would feature, in both our cases, division opponents playing each other for the third time this year. For me, this would be the game of the entire playoffs because it'd be the Cleveland Browns of Flacco going into Baltimore to play Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
Yeah.
And as much as I would love to see Flacco go in there, wave his little limp dick all over the place, make a couple
Why's it
more
gotta be limp?
babies,
Why can't it be strong and proud? Is it because it's cold? He's
make a
just
couple more babies on the fields because he's got 8 kids already. I just love seeing it, but something about the way the Ravens played the Niners and the Dolphins this year, it's just they're incredibly scary. And I still have them moving on in this game. Uh, Whether or not it's their year, I don't know, but I'll tell you this: it's probably the best team that I've seen in terms of their chemistry, how they're playing, facing adversity, like the Rams game. Just so much has fallen in place, and it reminds me so much of when the Broncos won back in the '90s with Elway. Like there were games that were close. We talked about the Jets game, how things just had to kind of play out a certain way to get us back to that promised land. Now, you would have your Steelers going up against the Ravens again, only this time you're not facing Huntley as the
We're
quarterback.
facing Lamar, and we're not
You're
playing
right.
them. We beat
And you do
them.
have the Ravens winning that game.
I do. Here's the thing with Lamar. If you look at his numbers for out, they always talk about like him passing inside versus outside. His numbers throughout the season are just fantastic as a passer in general. He's efficient. Yeah, the yards are a little low. And yeah, he didn't run for as many yards and as many touchdowns as people wanted. But they were also blowing people out, and he was keeping them in games when they were getting behind. And he was also doing the thing that exists, that I know exists, that a lot of people know exists, but we forget about it. Sometimes it's not the fact that you completed a 10-yard pass on 3rd and 10. It's the fact that you did it while avoiding a sack and it was a back-breaking play. Sometimes it's the fact that your running game, because okay, I'm gonna feel mean, but they have a lot of running backs. None of them are bad. I don't think any of them are bad, but none of them are special. None of them are game changers, but they look like game changers because when Lamar hands them the ball, there's that, oh shit, what's going to happen moment. He has that intangible moment that tangibly impacts the game. That's another, put that on a shirt. We're selling that. We're making money. He's the MVP. And yeah, we beat him at home. They had a lot of drops. You could be like, well, they don't have Mark Andrews, but they have Isaiah Likely. Baltimore is just the home of good tight ends. Zay Flowers, boy, did I fucking call that one for them. What a hell of a fucking pick that was.
He's been a difference maker. Yeah.
He's been a difference maker. Odell's been not 15 million good or however much you had, but he's had some plays for him. He's been he's not
in big moments too. He's had some big plays and big moments.
He's a legitimate NFL wide receiver. He's not what he used to be, but he is worthy of being on the field. They have some pretty,
and he's not a distraction. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, he got him that boat, so maybe they pull a giant and they get on that boat and everything goes apart. But it's just it would be if Watt was playing, it was a grade 2 sprain, so he would not even be close to 100%. It's just it'd be too little, too late. It'd be too much for the beloved Steelers, and unfortunately, America's team would fall short just a little bit.
All right, the NFC Championship game. It would face, for me, be the Cowboys. Same for you against the Niners. These teams are very familiar with each other. They played each other last year. It's going to be another good game. But I still think I have the Niners coming out on this one. I still think they're going to win. They're going to be at home. And by then, everyone's going to be pumped up. Cowboys will be motivated, but not as near as motivated as San Fran because they knew how close they were last year.
Yeah.
So
I disagree with that. I think the Cowboys would be I think they'll both be hyper motivated because McCarthy's coaching for his job, in my opinion. Dak's playing for his legacy. Parsons is trying to ditch the, I think, unfair label. Some people are saying that he's not clutch. I don't think that's fair. I also think it's kind of, is he in his second year?
Seems like these bad moments.
Yeah, is he in his second year or third year? Either way, Micah? It's kind of, yeah.
I think
early to say someone's not clutch. Yeah. So I don't know. It's weird which defenders we're hard on.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett cannot do a goddamn thing all fucking year except in one game. And, at the end of the game, and then everyone loves him. But, whatever. I'm just logical and consistent. Whatever. Fuck me. Fuck Myles Garrett. I got to be honest with you. I think the Niners would stomp.
Really? You think they're going to pull away easily in that one?
I think by 10 to 13, 2 scores.
Oh, wow.
I hate the matchup for the Cowboys there.
I mean, they did play early in the year, and the Niners.
It was a blowout. They've gotten a lot better, and the Niners have come back down to earth a little bit, arguably. But I hate the matchup for the Niners I hate for the Cowboys. The Cowboys, the way that they win games is one, they have to be at home. Well, they'd be on the road, And 2, they have to get home with the pass rush because their corners are okay. I don't think that they can. I think that they can play keep away, dink and dunk. I think they can get the ball to McCaffrey. I think they can scheme some guys wide open. It's a horrible matchup for them. I also don't like the matchup on the defense for the for the offense for the Cowboys. The Niners, maybe CeeDee Lamb has hit this point where no one man can cover him, and I respect that. And Brandon Cooks has been pretty good since he's gotten back healthy. He's still a pretty good wide receiver, so I'm not disrespecting their wide receiver core. And the Cowboys have a good line, but it's not a great line, and we've used to seeing them have great lines.
Yeah.
The Niners have so many pass rushers. They have Fred Warner. They have corners that are underrated. They have safeties that are underrated. Their scheme is underrated. It's just they are the most talented team in football, and they are fast and decisive. And their defense has been up and down a little bit, but they've got it back underway. It just feels like the Cowboys and the Niners try to do the same things, but the Cowboys are just the lesser version of them. You know, I was talking about like when the Titans would play the Steelers in the playoffs, and I'd just be like, it's the Steelers because the Steelers are the better version. Both teams do the same thing. That's what both teams are. They are speed-based, physical teams. The more physical, the faster team is San Fran.
Yeah.
And they have the better.
All right,
coach.
AFC. I have Buffalo going to Baltimore. I think you have the Chiefs going to Baltimore. This again, this is probably one of the weirdest things I'm going to say. I think whether it's your case, the Chiefs, or for me, the Buffalo Bills, I think either one are going to get their asses kicked. I'm not going to say it's going to be like a 30-3 win, but I would say that Baltimore at home is like a weird phenomenon because they just sometimes I see teams that I think should beat them. They go in there and then they come out and the Ravens just know how to win at home. Like that's one thing I hate about Denver right now is we don't have that home field dominance anymore. We used to have that.
You associate them with the incomplete chant, the crazy fans, well, luckily you still have the altitude, right? Like that can't go away.
I think it's a little bit different though, because ever since they took down the Mile High Stadium, I think it's moved a little bit.
Yeah.
So either players are getting better accustomed to the air out there, and they're just more prepared, like they weren't back in the day, or we're just doing it wrong.
The players spend more time there in the off season because of the marijuana. So I'm not even being funny. Like I'm being dead.
So yeah, I've got the Ravens moving on, and then I'm sure you've got the Ravens beating the Chiefs.
I do. They just don't look when Patrick Mahomes came into the league, he was amazing. But you know what helps being amazing? Throwing the Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and having the last. Remember when Sammy Watkins was still kind of good and he played in Kansas City? He's still running that 4-2 or that 4-3, and then he completely fell off a cliff. That was weird. But he had a ton of weapons.
But don't they still have Hardman? Like that was the guy that was sort of supposed to take over.
He's washed. I don't know if he's still there. They have MVS. He's washed. Their wide receivers are bad. Sky Moore is just not getting it. I'm maybe he can grow into it. Kadarius Toney is a waste of talent and a horrible player. He's just one of the worst wide receivers I've seen that's had any hype.
I'll say this: I don't want to see it. But if I was KC, knowing the situation Denver's in and they need picks and stuff, I'd be like, yo, Sean, you thinking about maybe trading a draft pick or two for Mr. Sutton? Because we can really use him here in KC. Sean would be like, fuck you, dude. We're not doing that. But if I'm KC, I'm entertaining the thought. Like it's like
I think that they're going to go. I think they're going to take Jerry Jeudy and beat the shit out of you guys with him.
That might happen too because he's young enough, and we are kind of like if we're going to get rid of somebody and sacrifice it, it's probably Jeudy.
I mean, there's a lot of guys there's going to be roster turnover. There has to be. I look at the Kansas City Chiefs and I go, I don't think that they have it's Mahomes. I'm sure he'll get some points on the board. He can do some incredible stuff. Baltimore's defense is nasty. Their offense is quite good. Their special teams are good. It's hard to overcome that. Will I take Andy Reid over Harbaugh all day, every day? Will I take Mahomes over Lamar? Yeah, I absolutely will. But then you look at the rest of the roster, and Harbaugh and Lamar are pretty good themselves. So
yeah, they're just playing great football.
That they are.
So this leads us to the Super Bowl. Now, this is a rematch of obviously of a game
The
played a few
Harbaugh
weeks
Bowl,
back.
baby. Yeah.
Well, it's for two things. One, you're talking about the Harbaugh Bowl, but the second thing is the Ravens annihilated Purdy
Yeah,
and the Niners
they got
earlier
very
this year.
disrespectful. That they did.
Now, my gut and my hope is that the Niners and Shanahan get their shit together, go in there and win that game. I don't care if it's by 1 point. But for the sake of me who lives in Baltimore, I don't want to have to hear about Ravens 24/7. So please, I don't care who the fuck gets there, just beat the Ravens. Like, I don't think anyone else is going to get there but the Ravens. With that said, the Ravens are going to win 28-17.
Oh,
That's who I
wow. We have
got.
close scores. Oh, man.
So you have Ravens winning 27-20. So what is your philosophy behind your pick and why?
I got to be fair.
I mean, do you think it's going to be like more of the same that we saw like a few weeks ago?
No, it's going to be closer because that game was close and then there's some turnovers that got out of hand. And Lamar had a great statistical game and he did play well, but he was doing a lot of nothing other than avoiding some sacks and whatnot until one of those turnovers happened and they finally got the ball rolling. I think it's going to be a really close game. I have a hard time thinking that the Niners will be contained as much as they were with all that talent.
Yeah.
But Baltimore, they have that defense. Specifically, they have those inside linebackers. Those linebackers make it so, at least theoretically, Christian McCaffrey isn't just a cheat code. He's not just a I win button, right?
Right.
They can cover Kittle as well as anybody can cover Kittle. They did a number on Ayuk and they did a number on Debo. So I'm not expecting them to do that again, but they are the type of team, and I like Brock Purdy. I've said this for quite some time. He is, if you're super charitable, the 8th best quarterback. If you're really uncharitable, he's the 14th best quarterback. I put him in that 8 to 12 range where you can argue stuff. His surroundings and the system help him a whole lot more. And if he
Right.
becomes a perennial Pro Bowler, a big part of it will be because of where he got the start. He got the kind of start life on the easy street, if we're being honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Baltimore, they have made better quarterbacks look bad. I mean, just historically throughout their history. And how Baltimore Raven would it be to take a guy who was in an MVP discussion, take away some of his toys, and make him beat you with tough throws all game long? And here's the other thing. You get to Baltimore's offense, and this is actually where I think the Niners have a bigger issue. You want to tell me that they take away Zay Flowers? Okay. You want to tell me that they take away Isaiah Likely? Okay. You want to tell me that they take away Odell? Okay. And you're going to tell me that they take away all of those things and the running game? I just don't believe it. Baltimore has a little, not to the extent that San Fran has, but they have a lot of ways to attack you as well. And you want to talk about a team that knows how to play ball control defense and knows how to play field position and leverage out field goals and all of the little minutia, like the actual art of football. It is them. And I love Kyle Shanahan, and he's one of my favorite coaches, and I'm Team Shanahan for life. And we shit on Harbaugh.
He's going to have a great scheme ready for the Ravens.
He's going to have to out-coach Harbaugh in the game, and he's had issues with that as an offensive coordinator. McVay's taken his lunch as a head coach. He's had issues with it, and people shit on Harbaugh. It's like the Tomlin thing. The standard's the Super Bowl, and you'll make the playoffs consistently, but you haven't had a win in a while. And it's like, well, fuck you. I play in the AFC. I don't always get to be the number 1 seed because the Chiefs exist. And I've had injured teams and all kinds of stuff. And it's like you expect a playoff win every single season, and you get spoiled with it. Now, I will say this for the Niners. Lamar has not been a good playoff quarterback historically. So we are expecting him to take a huge leap forward. And then we are expecting him, when he gets to the Super Bowl, to not take a step back. So that is a puncher's strike that the Niners. They also have a great roster. Special teams can happen. Bosa can get a strip sack. Like none of us saw the Jalen Hurts fumble, last year that led to a touchdown happening. It's a game
Right.
of football. Weird shit can fucking happen. Some
All the
random
time.
third stringer can be the guy who changes the tide of the game because of an injury. But I just like the
I think the
Ravens.
greatest thing, if I had to stick up for Baltimore here, and look, I despise the Ravens, not necessarily hate. I just despise them because I happen to live here and I have to deal with all the shit that comes with it. But if I had to take anything away from this, if the Ravens get to the Super Bowl, is that by the end of it, if the Ravens win, that Lamar is going to get up there, pull out his junk, and say, for every team that fucking passed on me and thought I was scrubby doo. And I was talking shit. I was like talking a mad smack, like, yeah, you don't want that guy, dude. He's not as good as everyone says. If he gets there, I'm gonna be there going, la, 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 la. That's just how it's gonna be because he's gonna have that right to say, I'm a Super Bowl winner.
He's
He's
your
probably gonna
MVP?
be MVP of the game.
Is he your MVP, regular season MVP?
What did we talk about? I thought it was McCaffrey initially, but that's gonna be an interesting game because when did they usually decide that? The week before?
Yes, and it's supposed to be based strictly off the regular season. I don't know if that's how they
Okay.
vote. I don't know how they.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like I think that Lamar
It's a weird year for MVP.
Yeah. Like in some ways, I wish they did it like maybe the week before after the Super Bowl because if the Niners and Ravens play, like that's the biggest showdown between two of the most best nominations, like between McCaffrey and Lamar. Like how great would that be?
It was.
To see how that played out.
That's what people were saying when they played in the regular season. That it's like Lamar won the MVP based off of that game, and it's been a weird year, right? Like it was,
and that's a fair assessment because I said it before. Like we say it all the time with the college football and everything else. If they get there, I want Purdy to have a better game because I think he is better than that. But you were on the stage, dude. You guys were at home. You should have at least competed with the Ravens. You guys came out and looked like dog shit. Like they fucking embarrassed you.
Yeah, it was. They got killed. And what hurts McCaffrey's chance, because it's the regular season type stuff, they don't want to give it to anyone but a quarterback. And he had the crazy touchdown, but Mostert, who's not even close to McCaffrey, but because of scheme, he had as many touchdowns or close to it. Right. So what I hate with the voters is I want the voters to look at that and be like, one guy is all scheme and the other guy the other team traded for, and then he helped elevate them to this greatness, and he is basically the engine of their offense. But they don't. I think that type of thinking has died. I think it'll go to Lamar. His passing numbers heading into, he didn't play last week, but heading into the week before, he was like 11th in passing yards and all that stuff. So he was going to be the first, if he wins, he's the first MVP quarterback to win, not being in the top 10 in yards. But the game's changed. He's a different type of guy, and his impact on the game is so warping. You can measure it in stats only so much. I wanted Tyreek. Here's the thing. I don't like Tyreek Hill for very obvious reasons, but if a guy was,
I don't even go there. Like I understand what you're saying, but like we're talking about just on-field performance.
But it still feels bad to say I was rooting for, because I've been rooting for a wide receiver. Wide receivers are the new running backs. They're more important than running backs now. It used to be running back and quarterback for MVP. Right. Because heaven forbid we give it to a defensive player, right? Fuckers. So I was hoping that
if we were going to do that, we should have gave it to Vaughn in 2015. Guys.
Yeah, I went to Cam Newton, who he ironically murdered multiple times on that field. But it's like I was hoping that we could get it to not just be a quarterback award, and I was hoping that if Tyreek Hill did something historic, that we could honor that, because let's be honest, he is more important to their offense than Tua is. Like most people would agree with that. I don't know if you do, but that is the prevailing opinion. And the fact that can even be not a laughable concept is a testament to how unfortunately great that pretty shitty guy is. And he got hurt, wasn't happening for him. And Purdy, that Niners Ravens game, just ended his MVP candidacy because he had those 3 rough games. And one of them I didn't think was fair because he might have been concussed. I think it was the Vikings game. But God, McCaffrey is so good and so worthy of it. But I do think it's Lamar, and that takes me back to the original point of the question is, if Lamar wins the Super Bowl and gets Super Bowl MVP and regular season MVP, he just shit on every critic in a historical way. And I will say this, I don't know if he's a great postseason quarterback. You know how I feel about winning and all of that. But to me, he has answered the bell. He is a big boy quarterback.
So far, yeah.
He is that dude. I remember you gave me shit because I was like, I want the Steelers to go get him, and you kept yelling about Pickett and made me feel bad. That's why I want us to go get Justin Fields.
But I protected you from taking Malik Willis. I protected you.
You did. I was okay with it. If we took him and he didn't pan out, I'm okay with it. I'm not a guy who's like, oh no, if we take a quarterback, he doesn't pan out. Oh, we've set ourselves back. And like, it doesn't matter. If you don't have a quarterback, then you're not doing anything anyway. Like, this
I will
is the year
say
of the
this
backup.
real quickly because it did rub me the wrong way with Pickett. And did he say
denies
something?
those reports, by the
Oh,
way.
okay.
He denies
That's what I
them.
was trying to get to because, like, I thought, man, that is so unlike him. Like, I'm like, Jesus. Well, thank you, sir, for joining me for this. We are definitely going to have to get together in a couple weeks once some of this settles. I will say this. If the Dolphins, for whatever reason, get past the Chiefs, they could make things interesting if they get
could.
on a roll. I don't see it. You don't see it. But if it happens, I think we both enjoy that aspect of it because a rematch
I love
between
their
them and the
coach.
Ravens would be interesting.
I love their coach. It'd also be really fun. It'd also be really fun to see if they took Ramsey and they put him on Zay Flowers or Isaiah Likely, because they used to take Ramsey and put him on Gronk, and he had some success. So that would be interesting.
And I will say this too. Even though I picked the Browns to beat the Houston Texans, like if the Texans get past that game, like I'm jumping on that bandwagon.
Yeah, they're a fun team.
DJ Stroud, baby. It's too bad I didn't get him in Denver.
Your Pittsburgh Steelers beat and upset the Bills, and then everybody's going to walk back their takes and act like they saw it happening.
Well, there's so many possibilities because at this point I feel bad for the Browns. So like the Browns getting to the Super Bowl, like I'd like kind of almost root for them because
As
it's like
the team of Deshaun Watson, you should not feel bad for them.
But yeah, man. I mean, like I don't know about you, but I feel so much more excited about this postseason than most previous ones. Like it doesn't seem there's outside two teams. There's like a lot of like mixture of stuff that's going on.
It was also especially bad for you because you hit the Chiefs and you just kind of saw that Kansas City machine.
I was so confident in Philly winning the game. I was like, fuck. I was like, where's Brady when you need him just to come in at halftime and just go out there and beat that ass?
If Brady only beat Mahomes because he was down 3 starters and was injured.
Fuck that. I'm not hearing that shit.
I'm not
hearing that shit, dude. He went in there a few times in New England. He rubbed his ass on Mahomes' face, said, I'm going to score.
He did no such thing.
Yes, he did.
Here's the difference between the two. When Mahomes won 2 Super Bowls, and he's won Super Bowls quicker than Brady did, he won it by being a true GOAT-ish player in terms of his performance. Brady cheated and was a game manager. So
He didn't cheat. His boss cheated. He didn't cheat. His boss cheated.
No! Let me look at those pictures that you took. I would never want to know what the defense might do. I'm Tom Brady. I'm an angel. The fuck out of here.
Hey, dude, it's kind of like that Colts game, man. They said, "Oh, my balls are too salty. Okay, well, we deflate them, or inflate them." And now it's like he goes back out there and throws more touchdowns. Look,
there was nothing. They could have turned the football into a grenade, and Tom Brady still would have beat the Colts. But it was still cheating. They still cheated.
Yeah, but everyone does it. Everyone does it.
Then why are they the only ones?
Dude, do you remember? Did you ever research like who's the dude, Brad Johnson for the Tampa Bay Bucks? He's like, yeah, man, I used to change the inflation on bulls all the time.
Isn't it crazy that when they tried to get those guys who texting the deflator and all those messages that Bill Belichick pulled them, and then Tom
cell
Brady
phone thing was off the hook, man.
Tom Brady deleted his. Yeah, they went to my friends who don't have a legal background. when you go in front of a judge and the judge wants evidence and you have to say, nah, dog, I don't have it because I deleted it, they get real mad about that. Okay. So when they went to appellate court and the first question wasn't about the litigation or the standards of measurement or any procedural stuff that Tom Brady was complaining about, right? Like due process and whatnot, but it was about the deleted cell phone. I knew that he was fucked. Tom Brady is absolutely a GOAT candidate. I'm not saying that he's not, but there's a lot of cheating in that background, and we don't talk about that enough. And that's why he's not really the GOAT.
No, LA is. We know LA
No,
is.
me. I'm the GOAT. Fuck you. I'm the GOAT. I'm the GOATiest. Tom Brady.
So yeah,
Tom
for
Brady.
those watching, you'll see us in a couple weeks, and then probably one more time before the Super Bowl, because we are gonna, when everything dust settles, we'll know who exactly is in there.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna try again to see if I can get some people. There's some people I want to see if I can get them to join in with some of these discussions for the next few months. Mr. Poe and I also probably about what you say, maybe a month and a half, we're gonna start diving into the draft. We're gonna do another live draft this year. It should be a little smoother.
Yeah, we're gonna
than
have
last
some
time.
time set up for breaks because we were dying.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to make like this little commercial like they do on the Roku. Commercial break. We'll be back in a few.
Hey,
We'll just
know what
do
the
that.
commercial will be when the Lions win. It'll be me in that thong mowing the grass and you washing your feet. It'll just be.
I think that should just be a promo video. We should just do a promo video.
No, we should know only if the Lions win, and I actually do not agree to that.
I'm telling Neko that because she's gonna come back and she's gonna say, "I'm gonna hold him to that."
No,
if
fuck
the
that.
Lions get there.
I only use rider lawnmowers anyway, so you'll have to rent one. All right, man.
Hot pink.
We're supposed to get off 20 minutes ago. We're done. We're done.
All right. For those of you who enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. This man gives me all the entertainment I need. Great dude, great co-host. Much appreciated for the time he takes off to do this with me.
I appreciate you having me. And this is a labor of love.
Yep, definitely is. Passion for the sport of football and all sports in general. So thank you very much. Poet, hang around for a quick minute. For the rest of you, we will see you next time here on Poetic Carnage. Take care.
Support this man, and if you don't, I'll eat your food, and your mom's getting dated.
He's going to shit in your bathroom, and it's a nasty situation.
It's going to be rough.
You see me before you die. Find the blood.